Good morning, Bucknoters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, August 7th, 2024. I am Dave Biddle. Very happy joined by Dan Rubin. A ton of good stuff to get into. We met with Chip Kelly yesterday. We met with all 5 quarterbacks. A lot of information was gleaned. We're going to pass that along to you. A ton of good stuff. Before we do that, speaking of a ton of good stuff, Factor Meals. Man, if you like good tasting food that's healthy and ready in 2 minutes, and fresh, high quality, Factor is what you need to get with. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. As I've talked about before, these are not the microwave meals that we grew up on. First of all, they're not frozen. They're high quality. You get them, you put them in your refrigerator, you pop them in your microwave. They're ready in 2 minutes. High quality stuff, chicken meals, steak meals, a little bit of everything. Fantastic. And here's a good deal for you. Head to factormeals.com/Bucknuts50. Use code Bucknuts50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code Bucknuts50 at factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. There you go. I love it. And there's no prep. There's no prep work. You just bam, it's ready in 2 minutes. When you're busy like Dan Rubin and myself during football season, that is good business right there, having something ready in 2 minutes. That's, again, not the microwave meals that we grew up on. Not even close. All right, Dan, good to see you as always, my friend. You were traveling on Monday, so this is why we moved your scheduled visit to Wednesday. Bax is probably somewhere speaking French and playing hockey with his kids, or maybe speaking German. He's trilingual, which makes up for the rest of us. Well, maybe not you. I shouldn't speak of you. I mean, your wife is Colombian, so I'm sure you can speak a little Spanish, right?
Just listen for my name. Listen for your name.
You got that one down. All right, so much good stuff yesterday. Let's start with this. Let's start with the prediction, then we'll get to the stuff we gleaned yesterday. So my prediction of when people keep asking, when's Ryan Day going to name a starting quarterback? I'm starting to think, I got an exact date for you. I think it's going to be the 19th, Monday, the 19th of August. Why? Because that's when kind of camp's you're starting to prep for the opener. You're out of the hotel by then, and he's meeting with the media that Monday. I bet you it's going to be Monday, the 19th. He'll name a quarterback, and I think it will be Will Howard. That's just what I think, Dan. Good to see you.
You have a better sense, I think, of when it will happen than I do. And I'm not even sure. That's more for us than everyone else, I think. I think if you were to poll the team, they would probably think, they probably know. I've never come off this point. I didn't think, since Will Howard announced he was transferring here, I thought he was going to be the quarterback. That's not against any of the other dudes. I just think it's, he's got the most experience by far. Let's get that out there. By far. None of the other guys, really have ever really played quarterback for a consistent period of time at the college level. And I think he fits what they need for this particular year, given the expectations and needs. So I've never really wavered off that. And I will defer to you on when he will announce it. I know there's people with ideas of he's trying to announce it. At times, guys will just fall in line and such like that. So I don't think you can, with the way the portal is now, I don't think you can predict who's going where at any time until this call is made. That said, I don't think there's any illusion among the group or anyone else who's going to be the quarterback.
By the way, in the world of sports, I do have some breaking news that I'd like to throw out there. Like if Kevin Durant is your sixth man, your team is pretty good.
We're ridiculous in basketball.
It's unbelievable. I know it's because he's coming off the injury, but he's the all-time leading scorer in American Olympic history. He's won he's really led them to the last 3 gold medals. He's coming off the bench. This team is ridiculous. I think it's better than the Dream Team, and I don't say that lightly because they're deeper. Think about Christian Laettner was on the Dream Team. You had guys that weren't really playing that well. Like John Stockton was banged up, was only averaging like 2 points a game. Dude, you're bringing Kevin Durant off the bench. And trust me, I'm the biggest Michael Jordan fan in the world, so I don't say that lightly. Anyway, we don't need to get too far into that, but you see what I have as my title. If KD is your sixth man, you're good for those that are not watching this. Anyway, all right. You know who else is good? Will Howard is a lot faster than I thought. I knew he could run. We're talking to Chip Kelly, and he's just like, yeah, Will's the fastest of the quarterbacks. He's like, it's very close. They all run over 20 miles per hour. I love how they all do it by miles per hour now. It always was like 40 time. Oh, yeah, he runs a 4.6, man. The other guy runs a 4.5. It's all miles per hour. Specifically, Will Howard runs 22.1 miles per hour. That's the fastest he's been clocked at, 22.1 miles per hour. Lincoln Kienholz is right behind him, 21.9 miles per hour. All of them are over 20 miles an hour. So all of them can run. Will Howard has dropped 15 pounds, Dan Rubin, since he enrolled at Ohio State in the winter. He told us I didn't know this. He told us he was up to 249 pounds when he first enrolled at Ohio State. And he said, definitely Mick was giving him some looks, like when he weighed in. And he's down to 234 now. And I was surprised to learn he's the fastest of a fast group of quarterbacks.
I actually probably would have put my money on Kienholz, given the fact that he was like the best athlete of the group.
It's really close, yeah.
But you can go watch Kansas State. There's one run in particular where Howard runs down the sideline for a 70-plus yard touchdown, if I remember correctly, and he's flying. So I'm not surprised that the move to Ohio State has allowed him to get a little bit more efficient in his preparation. That's what they do. So I'm very optimistic about that speed being deployed in a way that you cannot have an extra defender coming after the quarterback. I love that idea. There's been people I know on Howard in terms of, he was going to get replaced at Kansas State and some other stuff. And I've said this from the start, and I was also listening to him yesterday. We have said it because we thought it was true. The coaches must have told him, and he said it. He came blatantly out and said, I do not have to be a superhero. He may have actually used the term superhero or Superman that someone else has used and said, look, I just got to distribute. And he's right. Just match up the skill players from Kansas State to Ohio State. It's not even in the same stratosphere. Josh Pate talked about this on his tremendous show, is that Will Howard will never have a talent advantage at quarterback like this ever again, even if he plays for 10 years in the NFL. So he's just got to distribute it, man. The people who are thinking that the world is upon his shoulders are the people who are looking for a reason to take shots at Ohio State at this point.
There's a very, very interesting stat out there that 19% of the time at K-State last year, Will Howard was throwing to a wide open receiver. 28% of the time last year at Ohio State, Kyle McCord was throwing to a wide open receiver. Okay. And I don't know, man. I haven't studied the K-State receivers maybe as much as you guys have, but I bet they weren't quite as good as Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka, even true freshman Carnell Tate. I know I'm going out on a limb there. So seriously, he's now joining a better designed offense, better receivers. Oh, and the offense now has Chip Kelly. Oh, we're going to get to Chip Kelly too. It was great talking to Chip Kelly and some of the things he said. I already mentioned how he's talking about Will Howard being the fastest quarterback. We're going to get some more stuff we talked about with Chip Kelly. So that was an eye-opening stat to me. About 10% more of his throws, McCord was throwing to a wide open receiver. That's going to help Will Howard out tremendously. And I agree completely with my nephew, Josh Pate, who does a great job. He's not really my nephew, my friends. He calls me Uncle Dave, so I reciprocate. He's become a superstar. I almost said he's a rising star. He's not. He is a star. He was a rising star. Now he's just a star. All right. Will Howard carries himself. You and I have talked about this. He carries himself like he's the court without being cocky, while still being friends with all the other quarterbacks. He carries himself like I am the guy without saying it, but he just has that feel about him, that aura about him. Carries himself so well. You know who else carries? They all carry themselves well. All five of them do. Julian Sayin, the way he carries himself impresses me a lot. Getting to talk to him yesterday, including off to the side a little bit, nothing that was on the record. He's a really good young man, and I keep hearing good things about him, Dan, and I see good things. When we were out there for practice the first 4 days, he looked good. Yeah, he had his ups and downs like they all do, but he looked good. And I'm pretty convinced if he needs to, play this year, that he can hold the fort down. Again, what Will Howard said, could Julian Sayin go in there and be elite as a true freshman? No. But I think he could be good, and that's all he would need to be as a true freshman. So I continue to hear good things about him. I continue to see good things from him on the field. And then talking to him yesterday, I'm really impressed that he is wise beyond his years. And they all again, all 5 of those guys, I want to make it clear, seem like special young men in their own right. I mean, Lincoln Kienholz, we could talk about that. Devin Brown, I've talked about that. Aaron Nolan has a glowing personality. But I was really impressed with all things Julian Sayin.
I would echo those sentiments. We got a chance to meet these guys at the foundation get together, so you get to see them in a little bit of a social setting. And I would take your statement about Will Howard a step further. I thought the other guys on the team kind of treated him like he was the quarterback. We were among them. I've got Dave. You talked about that picture you have of the 3 quarterbacks. The next picture taken was my wife with the 3 quarterbacks. So that one's going to go on the wall at some point. But
you should have jumped in there, Dan. You should have jumped in there.
Yeah, nothing on tape. No digital footprint.
Maria stealing the show, huh?
No digital footprint. But all 5 guys, I'm going to say this in a diplomatic way that I don't want to make it sound all 5 of these guys are going to be a good college quarterback at some point in time. Most of them for Ohio State. Just the number of snaps and opportunities there are, one would think with 5 guys in the room, not all of them are going to get the chance to play a ton at Ohio State, but we don't know. I have no idea how that's going to work out. I can't remember a depth chart of 5 guys where I could really make a very strong argument all 5 could even be in the NFL. I'm not even saying that to be hyperbolic. They all have that pedigree. I can match any one of their pedigrees up with someone else and show you a guy who's had the same pedigree and is in the NFL. Okay, aside from that, Sayin, there is a vibe about Sayin. When you keep hearing things as much as we've heard him, and you see, and his pedigree was probably the highest of the group. Mm-hmm. There was one coach who had decent career who seemed to think he was good enough to take, and Nick Saban. So, now Alabama doesn't have a tremendous track record for quarterbacks. They've had some misses in there, but for the most part, if you're the quarterback that's going to Alabama, it's like the quarterback going to Ohio State. You're the elite of the elite. Very impressed with all of them. They're all great interviews. I mean, there was not a crossword said yesterday. I mean, no media training needed for any of the 5. No. They are literally the guys that you would send out to talk to the media. Their first, any one of them could have gone to the Big Ten and talked and done a fine job. And some of them will. Multiple of those guys will be at Big Ten media days. We just don't know which ones yet. I couldn't be more. I think it'd be very hard to be more optimistic about the quarterback position as a group. What's interesting is right now, going into this season, is it realistic? I mean, I was thinking about this. We have, and I've told you this, I think, on and off the record. This is the first time since we've been doing this in a while that I really honestly believe they have the best roster. I thought they could win the national championship, at other times could. I really think if you can match them up with Georgia, you can match them up with Alabama, you can match them up with any other roster, and they have the actual best roster top to bottom. They may have been tied or in the mix. This is the first time I've thought they have the best. And those other teams don't have, besides Georgia, maybe a quarterback that really scares me as much. But I think you'd be hard-pressed to say Will Howard is going to be better than C.J. Stroud or Dwayne Haskins or Justin Fields. Yeah. Okay, so he's almost, to me, got to play a little bit like, I don't want to get crushed, J.T. Barrett, kind of like a better version of that.
A better Craig Krenzel.
Somewhere in the mix there, which is interesting because we have our highest hopes ever, and we're not saying we have our best quarterback ever. So that gets me a little oogie. That said, if you look at the Heisman odds right now, I think Will Howard is 4th. There's nobody up there there is no Joe Burrow. There is no Trevor Lawrence. And I don't mean how many played in the pros. I'm talking about their reputation. There's no lock solid quarterback number 1 guy. So the timing is good for Ohio State to be as deep as they are at quarterback. Very optimistic when it comes to that, and very optimistic because I don't see another guy out there that can beat us by himself, if that makes sense.
There are 2 teams in the recent past that I thought were, at least at some point during that season or entering the season, I was confident Ohio State had the best roster. That being 2015, because they're bringing back basically everybody who won the national championship. Certainly the crux of the national championship team with Joey Bosa and Ezekiel Elliott. Yeah, you're losing some key guys like Devin Smith, who you don't win the title, without. You're losing like Michael Bennett, a few key seniors, but not many. Mostly, I think all but Darryl Baldwin on the offensive line was back. You had Von Bell back. You had all these guys back. Eli Apple back. All of them back. Adolphus Washington. Michael Thomas was back. So I was thinking 2015. Oh, and then Braxton's back playing running back, which that was, they kind of went to that too much. You have both Cardale and JT back. I'm thinking, oh, they got the best team in the nation. The problem with 2015 was twofold. Losing Tom Herman and replacing him with two guys completely over their head in Ed Warner and Tim Beck, recipe for disaster. And then the hunger just wasn't there after winning the national championship, in my opinion. The hunger just wasn't there for that 2015 team. 2019, I remember you and I talking. Now, I think LSU ended up proving that they were the best team that year. Now, Ohio State would have given them a good game. They should have met in the national championship game. Buckeyes would have been without Dobbins because he got hurt in the semifinal, but Ohio State absolutely outplayed Clemson and got screwed in that game. But I remember you and I talking. We went so far as to say during that 2019 season at one point that we were saying this is the best maybe the best Ohio State team we've ever seen. But then I think LSU, I didn't realize, now I'm well aware how good Jamar Chase is, for example, and Justin Jefferson. I didn't realize how good Burrow's receivers were. I knew they were good. So, yeah, I'm with you. Other than 2015, but this is different, man. They're hungry. They've lost to Michigan 3 straight years. Maybe with an asterisk, we'll find out. But they lost 3 straight years. They haven't won the national championship. They haven't won the Big Ten. I've never seen a hungrier Ohio State team. You match that with this roster, oh boy, you can see why I'm just brimming with excitement here.
I could take it a few steps further too in terms of things falling into place. I don't see LSU out there. That's kind of what I'm saying. I don't dispute that team for Ohio State, if we go player for player, I could probably even make the argument that it was better. I don't see another team like that. Maybe Georgia, maybe. And they're as unproven in some spots as they've been in a while. And then you take into account their schedule, Ohio State's schedule this year is not, I know they have supposedly the easiest non-conference schedule. That's a little bit affected, It's majorly affected by the fact that Oregon was supposed to be an out-of-conference game, and now it's not. But they have the schedule. They have the veteran lineup. You know what I'm saying? No, they've never brought back this many dudes. So not only are they the best, I think they're the oldest. I just don't see another team yet. I think Dylan Gabriel might be the Heisman favorite.
Or Carson Beck, right?
What I'm saying is
yeah. And Ewers is up there. Right. I know.
None of those guys, those are really good college quarterbacks.
Right.
They don't make me lose sleep. You know what I mean? So
they ain't Joe Burrow. And I know Joe Burrow wasn't Joe Burrow going into his final year.
They aren't even Trevor Lawrence.
Joe Burrow. They ain't Joe Burrow.
Hindsight's 2020, and Trevor Lawrence has not turned out to be the pro that everyone thought he was, the anointed one. But he was a tough cover in college, man. I didn't think he could run until he booked down the sidelines. Sean Wade says hello. But this is a good spot for them, man. I don't want to get overconfident, but the depth, then you start going into Chip Kelly's the offensive coordinator. Jim Knowles is the defensive coordinator. You know what I'm saying? Everything's lining up. There's not that wishful thinking that we had last year at this time. We were more buck nuts. I think we're being more buck rational now and still tremendously optimistic.
All right, let me let you guys know about Mando. You can't have BO, my friends. There's I'm not going to name who he is, of course. There's a guy who's a really good guy, and was at a party recently, and people just stayed away from him because he had BO. I wanted to give him some Mando. I seriously did. I felt bad for him. It's one of those weird things. Do you just go up and hey, man, you stink? Maybe I should have been a good friend. Maybe I just didn't want to embarrass him. Mando is whole body deodorant. It'll be your new best friend. It's clinically proven to control odor for 72 hours. It's safe for the whole body. It stops odor before it starts. It's American made, USA. KD Sixth Man, USA. It's American made. It's available in 4 cologne quality scents. Dan Rubin's favorite is bourbon leather. I agree with that. Bourbon leather is also my favorite. And Mando starter pack is perfect for new customers. I got my Mando over here. Maybe I did take it. Maybe I did put it in my bag just in case I My friend needs it next time. I thought I had it right here, but I don't think I do. But it's perfect for new customers, their starter pack. It comes with solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like the mini body wash and the deodorant wipes, and free shipping. Luckily, I have a discount code to help you get hooked on my favorite smelling whole body deodorant on the market. New customers gets $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code Bucknuts at shopmando.com. SHOPMANDO.com. Get Mando, have no BO. There we go. All right. I love this. So what have we been talking about? I mean, maybe some people say it's quarterback. What we've been saying is our biggest concern on this Ohio State team. If this can be good, they're going to be great. Offensive line, right? Chip Kelly doesn't strike me as a bullshitter, Dan. Maybe he's not going to blast his guys, but I think if he wasn't very confident in this offensive line when we asked him about it yesterday, he probably would have said something like this. Chip, what are your thoughts on the offensive line? Where are they at? Kind of projected forward. How do you feel about this offensive line? Quote, I see the makings of a really good unit up front. I see the makings of a really good unit up front. Well, my friends, if that happens, get them rings ready. Get them rings ready because they're going to need them if this O-line is a really good unit.
If we're 2nd and 2, my favorite down. If you could hand it off on first down, we're routinely getting 8 yards. You know what I'm saying? You know the feeling I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Where we go back to Tom Herman. What Tom Herman added to this offense was they never got to 3rd down. Go back and look at it. Never. They had like the shortest yardage to go on 2nd down of any team in the nation. We need to get back to that. I feel like last year and the year before almost, it's just handed off, 2nd and 9. The read didn't work again. So that's good. What's interesting about Chip is that if you listen to his talk yesterday, that was not his first time in front of a microphone. My guy knows how to do some coach speak to some questions. When people started to say, hey, I saw this guy playing with the 1s and the 2s, did he crush that? He went and made sure to get on record as saying, that doesn't mean anything. We were doing this and that. And then I'm sure it does mean something. But he made sure to take all the value out of everything you guys saw, which is the right move for a former head coach. If Chip says it, I will take his word for it, but this would be the part of the team that I need to see to believe. Am I scarred from the Missouri game? You're dang right I am. I got texts from people I hadn't heard from in years, like, who the hell is the dude playing blank on the line? I don't want to call anyone out. That was terrible. So, yes, the recency, I know. The recency effect is in full effect here, but you can't look at the roster, and we just talked about it. Even with the offensive line being, air quotes, unproven, we still said they have the best roster in football. So I'm going to be optimistic until it doesn't happen. But you have to be optimistic. And like I said, the idea of Chip calling plays, or at least having a major influence on how things are done, I think they'll be a little more clever. And then they just have more weapons at their disposal and a running quarterback. You know how much easier that makes things? A running quarterback in college football is like a cheat code. So I'm optimistic, but there's no question that's my number one concern. And look, it's a rich man's concern in this case, but it is a concern. That is not a proven group. There was not a time last year, and you can disagree with me. There was not a time last year where I was totally psyched with the offensive line, and not even a full game. There wasn't even like a full half where I was like, we are rolling, dude. We're knocking dudes out. The best drive of the year was the one at Michigan where Trainum ended up getting the touchdown. That's the high point of the season for me. Then they got the ball back and didn't have to go to 3rd down, but I digress.
They went from having a really good line in 2022 to having a really shaky, one of the shakiest offensive lines I can remember at Ohio State last year. It's almost like when you lose the number 1 offensive lineman off the board in Paris Johnson Jr. and a couple other NFL picks in DeJuan Jones and Luke Whippler. It's going to hurt you. Whippler, I've said this before, but Whippler leaving as a 3rd-year sophomore threw everything into a loop. Like that just and including himself.
I doubted that.
He would have gave it another year. There's no way he would have slipped to the 6th round. I don't know what he was thinking there. I think he just got bad advice, but hey,
you were all over that, Dave. I actually kind of disagreed with you at the time, thinking it wasn't that big of a deal because he was young. I was surprised. He started young. You know what I mean? He kind of got thrown in there. But he made a mistake. And I don't think it would have happened this year.
I love Carson Hinsman, but he'd probably be the first one to tell you I probably wasn't ready to be the starting center for Ohio State as a redshirt freshman, especially when I had never played center before in my life. Okay, people are like, oh, Hinsman was like a pretty good recruit. He's a high 4-star recruit. Never had played center. Was a little bit undersized. He's just now over 300 pounds for the first time, even though he was listed at 300 last year. He was not 300 pounds last year. So, yeah, not having Whippler last year. But anyway, they sucked on the offensive line last year. Now, all of a sudden, I mean, Josh Simmons looks great at left tackle. Great. Josh Fryer's also coming off a big-time offseason. He looked good. And they're veteran. They're sneaky, experienced and veteran when you add it up. Like Simmons has started 26 games at the collegiate level. All right, Donovan Jackson started 26 games at the collegiate level. Seth McLaughlin started 25 games. Carson Hinsman started 12. Tegra has started none. I think Tegra might be the starting. All right, I'm okay with Tegra not starting. He's entering his 3rd year. He looks great to me. That's going to be a good battle at right guard. We're seeing that. And then Josh Fryer has started 14 games at the collegiate level. So I like that. You mentioned something about the offensive line. You said, I'll believe it when I see it, type of thing. I'm with you on that. I'll also believe this when I see it. There's all this talk, and it makes for fun headlines. It makes for fun things to talk about on the Bucknuts Morning 5. Caleb Downs playing running back. Caleb Downs playing running back, right? That's very interesting. He was a good high school running back. Andrew Ivins, who I trust, I know you do profusely, says, yes, he could be a full-time college running back at the Power 4 level. No doubt about it. Now, that being said, I'll believe it when I see it that he's playing running back for Ohio State. Now, heaven forbid if Quinshawn gets hurt or Trey gets hurt, or heaven forbid if both of them do, then I might believe it. But I'll believe Caleb Downs is even going to sprinkle in playing running back when I see it. Now, could he do it? Yes. I just don't think he will.
Who knows? Chip and Ryan have probably been waiting to go mad scientist on the rest of the world for a time. And now that they're together, you're right about Caleb Downs. We have contact with some coaches who actually had to play against Caleb Downs in high school, and the term Superman was used. And it's Mill Creek or Moss Creek. I always get that.
Mill Creek, I believe. I wish I had the
yeah. He was basically the guy who got the ball in every single play once they got inside the 40-yard line. He could play anything. I prefer. I am. If I remember correctly, you're the guy who likes to throw everyone back there to return kicks and punts and stuff like that. I am not. I like a glass. I like a glass house for my stars and get them out early.
I want Teddy Ginn back there. I want my speedsters back there, man.
I just couldn't put Caleb Downs back on special teams. I don't think I'd put him on defense.
Not every time.
Because here's why.
What about in a big game?
I would give him the Darrell Green treatment. Do you guys remember Darrell Green for the Redskins?
He only played till he was like 45 years old. And
when you really needed a punt return, or like anytime the opposing team was punting from the end zone, they put him in there. And by the time the other team realized that he was in the end zone, that I am into.
Okay.
If you're into I don't want him fielding a second quarter punt on the 10 against Bowling Green. You know what I'm saying? That makes no sense to me.
Right.
If it's at Michigan State and they're punting from their 2, throw them in there.
Okay.
And blow them out. I get that. That makes perfect sense to me. I wouldn't put him on offense, and here's why. We need someone to cover 18 at Michigan. Number 18, Loveland. That's the reason we lost that game. No offense to anybody on the team. The reason I'm more confident about beating Michigan most off is because Caleb Downs will be covering number 18. So if he's not there to do that, I'm going to be worried. So kid gloves until then, and then cut it loose. But seriously, I'm not. You're more that guy than me. I would not put him in it on offense. There would be many other guys I would put in there before, like for a play or two, to run them on a reverse and have everyone vacuum to one side and go the other way. Like, I'm into that.
That's what I'm talking about.
if we need to give someone like 11, 12, 15 carries in a game,
No, I don't need
I'd
Caleb.
give it to CJ Hicks first.
I agree 100%. I don't need Caleb Downs out there returning like 6 punts against Northwestern at Wrigley Field.
Right.
Okay. You know, but let's game at Oregon or something. Like you said, they're backed up. Throw them out there. And when I am out there at practice stand and I see number 4, Jeremiah Smith back there as one of the 5 guys competing to be the punt returner, I get a little excited.
Oh, sure.
Jeremiah Smith back there, he'd be a big problem.
Oh, that I would not do.
He would be a big, big problem. He's fast. He has wiggle. He's obviously big. He's got great hands. He'd be a huge, huge problem back there.
I'll tell you what, if Oregon's punting from their own 2, let's put them both back there and split it.
Tressel used to do that.
Remember, I'm not even kidding.
He'd put Santonio Holmes and he'd put Anthony Gonzalez back there. Or the one year it was Teddy Ginn and Santonio Holmes.
I love that.
That's the most important play in football, Dan.
Let me tell you a word for the Oregon punter. If those 2 guys go back there, shank. That's a shank. That's going to be an angled punt. That's going to go well. It would be 1st and 10 at the 30 for the Buckeyes.
All right. Well, I'm glad we ended on that. By the way, recruiting, there's really no update. There's no update on David Sanders. We would just be repeating what we say all the time. I get asked about it every day. I know things can change daily. But if you're wondering a David Sanders update, I also would like one because nothing's changed. My confidence level, not extremely high, but I still think there's a chance because the collectives at Ohio State still are like, don't rule us out. They seem to be quietly confident. So we'll see. But there's a lot of Tennessee smoke, but nothing new on David Sanders. Great stuff, Dan Rubin. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. Big audience on our live feed. Appreciate you guys very much. Appreciate everybody who's listening to the show. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day.